Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Who wants to move to Russia? At least, maybe even just for a little while. Well, we'll tell you how you can do that tonight because Kevin Michelizzi returns with information on Putin's decree. Sort of a, I don't know if it's full-fledged immigration. I guess it is. Putin wants you and you and you and you and you, as long as you're a good person. But if you're a bad person, maybe not so much. We will also look at what's going on with the election campaign in the U.S., and we have Jeff Eely lined up. Of course, Jeff being a two-time Canadian war veteran, his court case, his Freedom Convoy court case, wrapped up today in Ottawa. We'll talk to Jeff and find out what happened. Stick with me. There's a lot to share with you tonight.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are two iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
I also have these now, which we just had produced. These Maverick News shirts, polo shirts. These ones are really nice. We had these last year too, with, hard to believe a whole year's gone by, but Maverick News logo embroidered on them. For these, we need donations of $50 or more, and I'll send one of those along to you. And we got these hoodies made up. So I might as well plug these two while we're at it. And again, embroidered this time, not just screen printed, embroidered. Really, really nice. So for these babies, I think we need like $65 donations or more, and then I'll send them your way. But before we get into all of that, let's bring Kevin Michelizzi in. There you are, sir. Hello. Welcome back.
Rick. You keep promoting Trump, I'm going to have to keep playing this Harris promo video.
That's okay. I'm all for that.
Well,
yeah,
here we go.
Like
Trump got his thing in, so sorry, people, it's Rick's fault.
She can get bills passed in Congress that'll protect me and you.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, or LGBTQ.
She could get this country back to where we can stand tall, keeping us safe from harm without building a wall. 'Cause she's a woman, W-O-M-A-N. I'll say it again. She's a woman, K-A-M-A-L-A.
You better.
What is a woman?
What is
we already did it. I
We're
think we're both
take it
clicking
off,
on the
yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is a woman? That's one of the core questions that is I think, perplexing the masses over here in the West, which is why so many people are looking to escape. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight.
I don't know. That's probably the video I should have uploaded is Putin's lesson about sex to Joe Biden, where Joe's got a piece of paper. I'll have to find it and send it to you. He's got a piece of paper and it's got all these different sexes on it. It says like 86 genders and he's trying to figure it out. And Putin's at the front of the class and he draws on the board male, female. And Biden's looking at it and he's doing this. And Putin walks over to his desk and he rips the corner off of it, puts it down in front of it. You've got male, female. So
That's funny. That is funny. But what we're talking, this is one of the core issues that is driving people to madness and to other countries. So
yeah,
in Russia, we have we're literally, we do have a lot of people, because of everything that's gone on over the past 4 years, who are looking to escape from Canada and the United States to places like, well, Costa Rica, just about any other place. What's going on in Russia?
well, what's going on in Russia, and you know me, I love living over here for various reasons. Why people are running here, um, primarily it is seen as the last bastion of conservative Christian values. Um, and I want everyone to know I'm not necessarily proposing everybody should move here for that reason. Just, the reasons I get from my clients and those of you who are interested. Rick didn't know I was going to do this. I'm going to do self-promotion today.
I didn't know, but
So,
that's okay.
yeah. So I can talk to anyone, here at this website if you want to schedule some.
Oops, you froze up there. He'll be back in a moment. We'll reestablish the connection. Something's going on.
Graham.
Yeah, you froze up there. We couldn't see you for about 30 seconds.
Okay. What did you hear last?
Just when you put your graphic up on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, see, they're trying to keep me from running my mouth. So, yeah, I can talk to anybody, who is interested in what's going on. They can schedule a time with me at that site. But I've got a lot of clients coming in on that site, a lot of clients coming in on my Telegram, asking the questions that we're going to answer here on your show, Rick. So,
okay. So this is this is one of the things you do over in Crimea, is you help people move to Russia if that's what they want to do?
We have a variety of resources. Sorry, it's early in the morning, not enough coffee. We have a variety of resources we refer people to. If people want to come to, the new Republic of America in Crimea, we will help them come here. We've got contacts in the immigration in our region. If they want to transfer money, if they want to learn the language, and I've got a bunch of valued partners that we work with as well in the Moscow region and some other areas. So one of the ways I scratch together a few nickels to eat.
And I guess you have experience that you can share with people because you've been through the process yourself.
Yeah. So I can share the experience. I can share what this changes for people. So the normal process when you want to move to Russia is you have to get a visa from the embassy. You have to come here. We always recommend you come as a visitor first. You don't want to sell all your things and pack up and move without knowing what you're getting into. Never do that to any country. Go spend time. It's a mighty big country here. Make sure you want to live in the region you think you want to live in. Maybe check out some other regions. See if you like the people or not, the way people treat you, the way the government's working around you. So always come as a visitor first. But normal process, you would come, you would apply for what they call a quota here. The people in the US would be familiar with this, like the green card lottery. I don't know if Canada has anything similar.
No, everybody
But
here's
it's
trying to
essential.
escape. So
Well, yeah, okay.
we're familiar with the green
So,
card lottery, but it's to go the other way.
yeah. So you get here, you can go into whatever region you want to live in, and you apply for this slot to apply for temporary residence. Basically, permission to apply for residency. And whatever region you apply in, you're stuck in that region until your temporary residency is issued. And you have to live in that region. You can work in that region once you get your residency. You want to go into other regions and work in other regions, you have to apply for permanent residency then. And part of both of these residencies, temporary residency has we'll call it the simplest test on language and laws, and the one I couldn't remember when I was talking to you earlier, Rick, language, laws, and history.
Mm-hmm.
And permanent residency has another test of language, laws, and history, which is a little bit harder. So you have to have that. You have to have a health check, which entails x-rays to make sure you don't have tuberculosis, blood work to make sure you don't have STDs, any other contagious diseases. They will test you for the unmentionable virus, whether you want to be or not. They don't force anyone to get vaccinated, but they will test you for it. And if everything goes well, you submit your documentation, usually from the US, an FBI background check that's apostilled by the Secretary of State. Many other countries, it's much easier to get a national background check without going through the hassle of the US. But that, apostilled copies of your birth certificate, your any marriage certificate you have, if you're bringing your wife and your children, all their birth certificates. And that's the normal process. Each one of those applications, once you apply, takes, normally they quote 4 months to get an answer. They're quicker many times, but they have 4 months to issue it or deny you. So what changes with Putin's new decree is you can go to the consulate or embassy in your country, you apply for this new visa that they've issued. It's a one-time visa. It's one-time entry. It's good for 3 months. And you can come in, and it gives you 3 months that allows you to apply for your residency, your temporary residency, which is good for 3 years if you get it. And wait for it to be issued. And they're saying that they will issue them quicker because you've already been vetted by the consulate. So a lot of people see this as Putin just throwing the doors open. It's not, and I'll explain that in a minute. But if you get this special visa, you can come for 3 months and you apply for residency. You do not have to take the test. You have to take the medical test. You don't have to take the language, law, and history test. So the view is that during the 3 years you're in Russia, you can take Russian lessons, learn the language. You can actually work while you're living on temporary residency. So it gives you a chance to assimilate into the culture. But when you go to the embassy for this interview, they will ask you about your family values. They will actually do a background check on you. So you have to show that you have similar moral values and conservative values that Russia has.
Interesting.
And they
So
will check everybody's social media. They will watch what news channel they watch.
you're doomed
Um,
if you're watching this one.
well, no, they took me, so they have no problem with crazy people.
Oh, well, there you go. Are you, is there an increase in the number of people moving to Russia? Is that, and is that something Russia is encouraging? Do they want more immigration? I guess they
Yeah,
do.
there has been a big uptick, particularly from the United States and Canada, um, some of the other NATO countries, and people were complaining that it was too difficult to get this temporary residency permit. What do? We need to flee our country, and but we don't know the language. We don't know if we can get one of these quotas. Where I live, they issue 77 slots a year. And, Moscow is, I don't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere around, 1,017, something like that. So people were saying, gee, can't you simplify it for people? So Putin listened to all this. He told the Duma, which is the Congress over here, to go make a simpler way for it. And my friend Maria Butina, she worked on this committee along with a couple of the attorneys that I am friends with here, immigration attorneys. And they worked with the government and came up with this new method of coming in.
Is it is it expensive to do this? I think it's probably expensive to move to any other country because of just the moving expenses. And then, I mean, I'm not going to pack up all my heavy stuff and fly it to Russia. Probably going to have to, you'd have to sell everything and then buy new stuff when you get there. Is that the advisable way to do it?
That's what we advise people to do. A lot of people push back of, gee, I've got a lifetime of collecting my crap. But reality is there's nothing you own there that you can't sell and then use that money to buy it new here for the money that you sold your used stuff for. Most everything is much cheaper to buy here. So my wife and I came with, 2 suitcases each. Our daughter brought us 2 suitcases over, and everything else we bought here other than computers. I carried laptops, but you can get anything cheaper here. So cost of living is inexpensive here, but is it expensive to move? Absolutely. You got to buy plane tickets for you and your family. If you take one person alone right now to fly to Russia, you're talking, this time of year, about $2,200 for an airplane ticket. In the winter after October 1st, somewhere between $1,000, $1,200, $1,400. You have to go a roundabout way to get here. There's very few flights you can buy directly into Russia. There are a couple of airlines now that you can buy direct from the West into Russia to Moscow or St. Petersburg. But, so you've got those flights. You've got to take the time to sell your stuff. And when you get here, you have to, live for up to 3 months without income unless you can work remotely from whatever you do in the West currently. So it's attractive to IT people. They can work remotely, computer programmers, really the hardcore professionals, white collar workers that Russia really wants to increase here. You never hear about it, but there's a Silicon Valley in Russia where lots of development is done, like it's done in San Jose, California. So they want this kind of professionals. the number one question that we get asked and some of my valued partners get asked is, can retired people come? Well, who's better to relocate their lives than retired people? They have a fixed income coming in, somebody who's bringing in let's say a $2,000 a month income in the United States on Social Security or a disability pension, they can live fine over here um, on $2,000 a month. They can live pretty darn well, actually. So,
What areas of the country do people tend to favor?
people tend to favor Moscow.
Mhm.
I know lots of people all over the country, but everybody wants to come. They want to live in Moscow. It is the most expensive area to live in, but it's international. It's extremely clean. Lots of foreigners there, so people don't feel like they're alone. They've got a lot of support. You can reach out to uh, they've got a big, big American expat community in Moscow. So if you need help with something, you need to find a reliable plumber, you need somebody to translate for you or interpret. A lot of people around Moscow who will help you out.
Is there a PR or even a propaganda aspect to this decree being issued right now? Is this, during this conflict with Ukraine, do you think?
I would say, I don't know for sure. This is just what my thoughts were initially when it was signed, is this really is kind of a slap in the face of the countries that will be included, because there's going to be a list released after September 1st. People keep saying it will be released on September 1st. It will be released after September 1st. Could be that day, could be a week later, could be 2 months later. But you've got the elections in the United States going on, which is a biggie. You've got some other ones, Duda's up for re-election soon in Poland. I don't know, a lot of them, but the big one is the United States. And, you know, could people view it as a pro-Trump thing? Maybe. Um, I wouldn't put it as that. I would put it as, with the support of Ukraine, most of those countries that are supporting Ukraine will be on this list of eligible countries. So, kind of a big slap in their face of, look, you guys are supporting Ukraine. Your own people don't support it. So, they're all fleeing your country and coming here. Exactly what you and I are hearing on a daily basis.
Hmm. Yeah, I understand. It's I from where I sit, way over here in Kanakistan. um, I yeah, I see it as I see the PR aspect to the timing. I don't think there's any question about that. But it's a real
You,
thing. It's a real thing. But you've been
yeah,
talking about this, for over a year with me. This
yeah,
is not really new.
yeah. It's just a simplified way for people to get here for that initial 3-year period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the biggest fear people have coming here is that language test. My wife makes good money on this. This is not a good proposal for her, but ultimately, if people want to stay here, they're going to have to take that test at the end of that 3 years, or any time that they decide before the 3 years is up that they want to permanently stay if they apply for permanent residency.
All right. What
So,
about the cost of housing? Here in Canada, Justin Trudeau just announced a new plan to address the housing shortage. He says we have lots of land and we're going to build houses on this land, but we're not going to sell them. We're going to lease them to you. I was like, what happened to the American and Canadian dream of home ownership? Well, his plan is to build homes at taxpayer expense, and then lease them to people, I guess indefinitely. And I think honestly, it's because housing prices here have increased so much that they are unaffordable, unattainable. I think, especially first time home buyers, good luck. You're never going to get a down payment. It has become so expensive here because of inflation. What's it like over in Russia?
Well, it depends on where you want to live. Um, there's an American village being built just outside of Moscow. And you go there, and what did we calculate? It's like a third of an acre of land and a house built, $185,000. So that's a brand new house with some land and in an English speaking community. Now, you want to live in downtown Moscow, it will cost you all of that to buy an apartment. But you want to go to the northeast corner of Moscow, you can either rent an apartment for uh, $300 to $800 a month, maybe $1,000 a month, or you can buy an apartment for, I don't know, I didn't do the math. I have to let's see, for about 8 million rubles. You become a millionaire real quick over here. So for about $95,000 in that area of Moscow, and it's not a bad area. So you move a little further out from Moscow, it gets cheaper. You come down to Crimea, you can buy a nice house for 30,000-40,000 US dollars. Krasnodar, which is on the mainland, real nice modern city on the Black Sea. Same thing, 30, 40, $60,000, and you can have a pretty darn nice place.
Wow. I mean, houses here since Trudeau took control, they've more than doubled in many, many areas. It's not uncommon in even, medium-sized cities now to see houses selling for 700,000 to $1 million. It's
Yeah.
it's crazy what's going on here. No wonder people are looking for some sort of alternative. And I am seeing a lot of people move to places like Mexico, Central American countries. There's a lot of talk about it. We've done programs on it here. So I don't know. What about things like vehicle prices? I think we've spoken about this before in a previous program, but what does it cost to buy, say, a new car there, or even a used vehicle, and what brands are available and popular?
Most brands are available over here. You're seeing fewer and fewer Western brands. Ford is big over here because Ford has a manufacturing plant in Minsk. So you like Ford, you're a Ford guy, got to have that Ford pickup truck. You can buy it because they make them in Minsk, which is, free economic zone with Russia. And, you're seeing fewer and fewer dealerships for some of the foreign car manufacturers. Renault used to be big here, and they've converted you hear about all the companies leaving Russia, and all I can say is bullshit. Renault, they're not selling new ones here, but guess what? You can get parts and things because they've rebranded and sold the company to Russian interests. So they're building the same cars under a Russian brand.
Yeah.
Kias are popular here. We bought a Kia, 16,000 US dollars for a brand new Kia, fully loaded. And they're manufactured in Russia as well. So Mercedes has got a plant, and they manufacture in the Moscow region. You have a lot of Chinese companies that have been coming in now, and they used to make the cheap Corolla cars. Mercedes will cost you a good amount. The cheap Chinese cars you could buy for $7,000. Now they're competing at the $16,000 to $20,000 range, and they've improved the quality. They're actually some pretty nice cars, but a lot of them again are built in Russia.
Right. And you're seeing companies like BYD move in there, I'm sure. They seem to be one of the biggest Chinese brands with retail outlets. And do they have manufacturing there yet? I don't know. Or do
Yeah,
you know?
that's why I say they're doing manufacturing, but it's mostly, they've kind of done what Trump promised to do for the United States, revitalize the manufacturing. So as some of these foreign companies pulled out, the Chinese came in and took over the factories, kept the workers that were experienced employed, employed new Russians. So you find that Russian-built products tend to have a little higher quality than the Chinese products because they have a little more pride in what they're doing. This is not a country to come to if you want handouts. If you want somebody to hold your hand through the process, you have to hire somebody like me or one of my friends to help you, because Russians, it's like, well, work for what you get, and they do work hard for what they have.
And that being said, what kind of social programs are in place and available to newcomers?
Let me see. I have a long list here somewhere. Let's see. Here it is. Here is the complete list of social things that you can get from the Russian Federation to come here as a newcomer.
It
See
looks
that
like
big
a blank.
list?
It looks like a blank piece of paper because it's overexposed. It looks like nothing.
It
Or
is
is
a
that
blank piece
proper
of,
exposure?
it
Oh,
it is proper exposure. It is a blank list. When you come here, when you're on this 3-month visa, you can buy an insurance policy from immigration. This is actually good for until you get temporary residency. And it costs a whopping $17 a year. And you get temporary residency.
Yeah.
They will give you free basic medical care. You can go to the doctor, you can get your annual checkups. If you get ill, you can go to the doctor. And
So basic health insurance just to get in to see a doctor for basic things, $17 a year for insurance. That makes a lot of sense to me.
That's until you get temporary residency, and then they give that to you free.
Okay.
So, and then if you get permanent residency, you get a higher level of medical benefits. You can, for whatever reason, I wasn't feeling well. I went to my doctor. I says, I'm not feeling well. What do you think? He said, maybe we should send you over to the brand spanking new specialty hospital in Simferopol and have you totally checked out. So I qualified to stay there for 12 days free of charge. Every test in the world, MRIs, ultrascans, everything, brand new facility, all the specialists and everything, and that was free of charge as a permanent resident. Now, medicines. You will buy all of your medicines unless you become a citizen. Now, what I pay out of pocket for most everything I take is trivial. I can buy an entire box of insulin pens for $20. And in the US, we're talking $700-800 for that same box of insulin. The exact same brand, the same insulin. So, even drugs are not expensive here. And you don't need prescriptions for most of anything. You're not going to get narcotics. You're not going to get opioids. Citizens can't get narcotics and opioids unless, other than in extreme cases. So the cost of living is cheap. We live on food. We grow a lot of our food on our property, and we're in the middle of a city. Moscow, if you have a small piece of land, you can grow your own food. You can have chickens or agricultural products as long as it's for your own use. But, going to the supermarket all over the winter, we pay, 30, $35 a week to feed my wife, my mother-in-law, and I. So, and we eat well, if you haven't noticed my size.
What about driving? How do you get a driver's license, or what do you need to do that?
To get a Russian driving license, you have to first go to a driving school, and they will give you 3 months worth of driving lessons. And that's both practical and behind the wheel. You will learn how to change your own tire. This is men and women. By the time you're through with that school, you will know how to change your own tire, your spark plugs. You'll know how the engine works. You'll know what first aid to give people if you come across an accident. You will know how to drive. You will know everything. It's extremely difficult to pass those schools. And they give you exams every week on what you're learning, and you have to pass those exams to move on in the school. You have to know the language to do it. You pass that school, you will then get a medical exam to make sure you're healthy enough to drive, a psychology exam, and they give you a certificate. So you take your medical certificate and your driving school certificate to the police. They will give you a written test in Russian, multiple choice in Russian. If you ask them, like in California, can I have it in Swahili or Spanish or anything else? They will look at you and go, huh? You pass that, you will then sit with a highway patrol officer, examiner, who will give you a driving test to make sure you know their rules and follow their rules. You get that, you get a Russian driving license. Extremely difficult. Foreigners legally aren't supposed to drive on a foreign driver's license for more than 30 days in Russia. The police do not hassle people for it. I know people who've been here for years and never, left behind their Western driver's license. I still don't have a Russian driver's license. I drive on my US license all the time. The biggest hassle I have is the local police know me. And if they have somebody that is new on the force or something, they will pull me over on purpose. And then they will call the squad car with the new guys in it to come over, and they will take my driving license and they'll stand on the side of the street and they'll go, oh, hey, can I take a picture of it? So that's the only reason they pull me over, is to show my foreign driving license off to other people. People in countries that signed, there's some driving accord, many countries. I think Canada's part of it. You have an international format driving license with international format classes of driving and stuff. You can actually bring that in here and exchange it for a Russian driving license.
Really?
The US never signed that agreement. So this is why Americans or United States Americans have to go through that hassle.
I see. So you have to speak Russian or you're not getting a Russian driver's license.
If you do not speak Russian, you are not getting a Russian driver's license. Correct.
Wow.
You live someplace like Moscow, you don't need it.
And,
there's such good public transportation there.
And a psychological test, is that to prevent road rage?
Yeah, if you have a road rage problem, you will not get a driver's license. It's a pretty simple psychological test. They do psychological tests for everything. If you're you can't, I'll get rid of this question too, because everyone asks it. You cannot bring your firearms to Russia. Won't happen. It is illegal for a foreigner to have a firearm in the country unless they're a member of the Russian military. Citizens can, but to get a license to have a hunting rifle in Russia for a citizen, got to have that psychological exam again.
Sure. Well,
So
a vehicle can be a weapon too, and sometimes it is used as a weapon by some people. So it sounds like a pretty good idea to me to give people a psychological test if you're going to give them permission to get behind the wheel of a car.
yeah,
So
and you have to be healthy.
yeah,
So
yeah. What else do people need to know before maybe starting down the path of making a trip to Russia with the intent of maybe staying there?
well, most countries, you can get your documents, and before you leave, bring them with you. You can apply right away. The United States is everybody's pain in the butt. The FBI background check, you get fingerprinted, takes about 3 days to get it. You send it off to the Secretary of State for their apostille on it. And right now it's taking 6 to 8 weeks to get that apostilled version back. So you've burned 2 of the 3 months that thing is valid, because the background checks are good for 90 days from the date they're issued. So we have some ways to deal with that here. And,
Well, interesting. Is there a fee that they charge to go through this process?
So I don't know what the fee will be for this new process. The current fee for temporary residency comes out to, it's like $30 or $40 to apply. Your $17 for your medical insurance while you're waiting if you want it. Documents to be translated. So all these few documents you need: the background check, marriage licenses, birth certificates. They not only have to be apostilled from wherever you come from, but then you have to have them translated into Russian and notarized in Russia. And notaries are not like notaries in the West. They aren't just somebody who collects, $10 and gives it a stamp. Notaries are like lawyers here, and they have a unified system in the whole country. And when you get this notarized document, it's got an official number on the top. The government officials can go into the computer, they can type this number in, they can see what was issued, who you are, who the notary was that issued, so they can verify that they're real documents. So you've got the expense of doing that. My wife does official translations, and she charges $20 a page for people, or $20 a document for things like birth certificates. Our notary charges 5,000 rubles, so $50 to actually notarize a document. So you've got a few $100s in the entire process. Once you're here, once you have a place to live, you have to be registered somewhere in Russia, and that can't be a hotel unless you're going to live in that hotel for 3 months. So you have to find somebody who will rent to you and register you to their address.
What about things like if you buy a home, insurance for that, or if you have a car insurance? How does that work over there?
Cars, there's state mandated car insurance that you have to have. And it's interesting how it works. It cost us last year, it was $160 for the year. And it covers you up to 50,000 rubles, so $500 basically. And if you have an accident, they send a state accident inspector out to the scene. They take the report from everybody, and that person makes the decision about who is at fault. And it gets sent into the police department, and they will say, well, you get to collect this much for repairs of your car. Amazingly enough, somebody rear-ended my wife's car, and we had it fixed at the dealership. We paid 110,000 rubles. We got $40,000 out of the insurance policy. So, we paid what, 70,000 rubles, so $700 out of our pocket. But you can pay for a private insurance policy that will cover everything. Costs us about $700 a year for that. We don't carry it, but house insurance. You can buy house insurance from your local bank. Banks sell your house insurance here, but you're not required to have it. Almost nobody has it. Now, this is one of the things, if you're a resident here or you own a property here, I should say. If our house, for God forbid, burnt to the ground, the local authorities will come in, they'll assess the situation, they'll say, yep, it burned down, and they will give us a new place to stay. Isn't going to be what I built. It may be an apartment somewhere. It may not be the best apartment, but they will give you a place to live. We've got people across the street from us, and we're up on the side of the hill, and their retaining wall has fallen down, and the house is starting to slide down the hill. One of the houses they looked at, and they said, yep, that's a true landslide. We're going to move you out for your family's safety. They gave them a new apartment to live in, not a house. The house next door, they determined that the landslide was caused by a broken water pipe that the people caused. And they were told, sorry, you're not covered. You don't get new housing because you caused the situation. So.
What about culture shock? Did you go through that? Do most people struggle? I guess it depends on whether you know the language and how adaptable you are. Likely varies from person to person.
Well, let's keep in mind, I was married to an Eastern Ukrainian woman for 15 years before I moved over here. Visited a lot, so I knew some of the culture stuff. Was there still culture shock for me? Sure. Will people experience used to strangers aren't going to smile at you on the street? They don't like it if you're going to smile at them on the street. Russians view that as, well, if you're smiling for no reason, you must be a little cuckoo in the head. You go into a government office. We had a guy we helped immigrate last year. He went to the immigration office and he's smiling and laughing with the women in the office. And it was offensive to them because to them, their job is very serious business, helping people immigrate. What are you smiling and laughing about? You don't take this seriously? So you have to get used to things like that. You have to get used to the fact that, much like in the West, everything has a guarantee. You go and you buy yourself a new power tool at the local Home Depot store. And, it's got that 1-year guarantee. Well, you'll find that Russian guarantees work a little differently. You can go back to the store and they'll say, well, yeah, did you read the guarantee in the box? Send it to the factory, have it fixed. Well, that factory is likely going to be in Europe, Slovakia, Poland, China, because a lot of that stuff is imported. All the stuff that you can't import because of sanctions are all still imported. If you get a Russian-made product, we bought Russian appliances for exactly this reason. They have the longest warranty, 5 years. We had our dishwasher break down after a couple of months. We had to take it to the repair place in a neighboring city, but we took it there. They repaired it free, brought it back, and everything was fine. But you have to get used to the fact that customer service here is not like it is in the West. Young people in stores will give you a smile. They will say hello. They'll treat you politely. You get that 40, 50-year-old or older person who grew up in the Soviet Union, you're going to get the famous Russian scowl. You ask where something is, and they'll point. So,
That is different. That is a
Yeah.
lot different.
Some of the other big things that amaze people is like city like the size of Moscow. Absolutely spotless city. You can be downtown, middle of the day, and you'll see these little miniature street sweepers going down the sidewalks, going through the parks, cleaning everything. So that can be a little bit of a shock. I don't know, lots of things that will be unfamiliar to people. Another reason to visit first.
Any homelessness in the big cities like Moscow? There must be some.
Very, very little. There is some. They tend to have, they call them homeless facilities. We've got a new one that was built not too far from us. And is what they'll do is they will send them there. They put them up in the facility. It's like a giant resort hotel. So they give them a room, they feed them, they train them for a new job, they get them a job, and then they send them out. So, it's more of a rehabilitation program. So it's kind of neat.
Interesting stuff. So, what about? I'm going to ask this because I would not normally have thought of this, except that right now over here it's back to school time, and all the cell phone companies are out selling their plans or selling renewals or trying to get people to switch from one cell phone company to another. What's that look like over in Russia?
You
Because it's expensive here. It's very Canada. I think has the highest cell phone rates in the world, if not the highest, very close to it.
Yeah, here they don't have such plans. You go buy your phone or bring your phone with you from the West if it's unlocked. If it's not, most of them can unlock your phone for you.
Yeah.
Russians are masters at hacking the stuff. But my iPhone, I've got a local Crimean number.
Oops, you froze up again, Kevin. Sorry, you froze up again there for a moment. You might want to repeat what you said when you held your phone up.
Yeah, I was good. Yeah, I saw us both going in and out. So I have a local Crimean phone number and an eSIM on my phone. I have unlimited calls, texts, and internet, and I pay an exceptionally expensive 450 rubles a month. So, rough calculation, $4.50 a month.
Whoa.
I have an extremely expensive Moscow phone number from the largest operator here, MTS, and I pay 1,000 rubles for unlimited everything. And I do it because sometimes with Western.
Oh, we lost Kevin. He'll be back though. He'll be back. Let me take a little break. We'll come back. We lost our internet connection. It's probably one of the spy agencies trying to shut us down as usual. Stay with us.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We lost you there for a moment again.
What can I say? I was connected to US VPN and the 3-letter guys cut me off. I love starting conspiracy theories. So hey,
No, it's not a conspiracy theory at all. It's they
yeah,
just don't like you
yeah.
or us. Yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
So,
Well,
so
those
yeah,
cell phone
so
plans are, yeah.
yeah, so in Moscow, I have a Moscow phone number because a lot of Western services won't send an SMS to a Crimean phone number. So I've got a second eSIM in my phone, and I'm on an extremely expensive plan in Moscow, 1,000 rubles, so $10 a month. Unlimited calls, texts, and internet again. Plus, that includes 500 minutes of roaming in Crimea. So
Well, in comparison, here in Canada, they have new plans out that are like a super duper deal, and you get like I don't know, a certain amount of data and unlimited calling and texting in Canada, and they start at $40 a month. But I can tell you that I paid last month. I just saw my cell phone bill, and it was more than double that. So almost $90 a month I'm paying for my
yeah,
plan.
here they
Yeah.
pretty much sell what you want. If you're not a big caller, you can get a plan for $1 a month. 300 minutes of calls, and you run it out. You put another $100 on it, or another 100 rubles, another dollar. So it's cheap. But you're paying that upfront cost of a phone.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, New iPhone here. I was just looking at them because my battery shot. It'll cost me 9,000 rubles, so $90 to put a new battery in it, or I can buy a new phone for $600, a new iPhone.
Well, it's just an ongoing expense. I just know it's very expensive here. What I'm hearing from you over there sounds much more attractive, but you know,
It
it's
yeah, it is
especially
for
important to
West.
young people.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
it is less expensive here for somebody from the West who can, either has earned a living over there and brings money with them, or has a pension from over there.
Mhm.
If you come here and you're going to work, you know, you're not going to make the salary you would in the West.
Right.
The average salary for an IT person here runs about 200,000 rubles a month. So, $2,000 a month. You know, California, that same guy is making, $12,000 a month. But you can live on it here. The other thing that'll shock people is it's like with my construction guys. I pay them to work an 8-hour day, 9 to 6, with a 1-hour lunch break. They show up about 9:20. They change their clothes. They have a cigarette, make some coffee. They start working around 10. At noon exactly, they go to lunch. They come back about 1:15, 1:20,
Mhm.
have their cigarette. Can't do it while they're, on their lunch break, you know, and they'll have 20 cigarette breaks during the day, and at 6 o'clock, they're gone. So you have to get used to the fact that it is much more relaxed, other than in a city like Moscow. Um, and people at the end of their day, they're gone. That's their personal time. They know how to take time off, they take vacations. It isn't, my wife always complained that she got up to work at the hospital at 7 a.m. in the morning. She was getting home at 7 p.m., 5 days a week, sometimes 6, and was so tired she would just, eat and fall asleep in front of the TV. Here, people actually enjoy time off. It's important here.
Well, I'd like some of that someday.
Well, me too. Darn
Well,
Westerners.
is there anything else you'd like to add or think that we might be missing about this subject?
Well, we had a couple of questions I put stars on. If I didn't catch your
Sure.
question going by, I apologize. Peter Grayson says, why would I move to Russia? I don't see as it a positive move that would benefit him. And he'd have to leave family, daughters, and grandchildren. Lots of people do it. bring your family with you. We moved here. We left our daughter in the United States. She loves it there. She doesn't want to start a life in Russia. We fly her back and forth. So we see her often. Only you can decide why you would want to move to Russia. Nobody else can decide that for you. Jamie Robin Tale, can I, as a criminal as a criminal, can I move there? Depends on what crime you committed. You apply, they will research your background. If it's something that they don't like, they will say, sorry, you can't come. If it's something they don't mind, you're okay. Our Nation Revolution now. I love this man. They should call Putin Dr. Putin because he has a PhD. Actually, I had this discussion with somebody, a Westerner, and said, oh, we all call, Putin Vlad, which is very disrespectful. You call him Vladimir Vladimirovich. That's the respectful way to refer to people here. It's a culture shock thing. They don't have middle names. They have patronymic names. They're named after their fathers. My wife's father's name was Vyacheslav, so her patronymic name is Vyacheslavnovna. So something to get used to, but her students do not call her Mrs. Michelizzi. They don't call her Irina. They call her Irina Vyacheslavovna. It's just a sign of respect. Jamie again says, I'm liking the sound of Russia. You could own a bunch of homes and apartments and be a slumlord. Absolutely, you could, Jamie. And you could also spend a good amount of time in prison for not keeping up your facilities and treating people right. So Russia does not put up with that. They will take your slummy building away from you. They will tear it down and they will move everybody into decent housing and throw you in jail for something like that. This is a country of laws. And if it's on the book, how or whether it's enforced depends region by region, officer by officer. I can tell you that from me or my colleagues, you will never get a recommendation that is against Russian Federation law because they're serious about their laws. If there's a law on the book, you follow it.
So I just looked it up. I thought, well, I wonder what it's like, people moving back the other way. How many Russians have come to the United States? I didn't look up Canada. The answer I got back was 57,000 Russians moving to the United States last year. And the word that was used in the response was asylum seekers. I don't know exactly what that means or exactly how the stats or the demographics break down. But do you have any actual stats on the total numbers of people moving to Russia?
I don't have stats on the total numbers. I've seen them. I don't have them at hand. I know last year there was some 3,000 or 4,000 U.S. citizens moving to Russia. So that's just U.S. citizens alone. A vast majority of people moving to Russia tend to be, the East Asian basin, Ukrainians, Western Europeans. I can tell you that 50 to 60% of my clients are either Russians moving back from the United States because they say they see the fall of the Soviet Union, the same signs in the United States. And, or they are an American married to a Russian and they're moving here for the same reasons. So as far as asylum seekers, it's possible there were 50,000 Russians who fled Russia last year. A lot of it is young men who do not want to serve in the military. The unfortunate thing for them is if they change their mind later in life, like many of these Russians are doing that are coming back, they won't be allowed to come back. So if they are called up to serve and they do not serve, they have criminal liability for it. So lot of
Wow.
former Soviet citizens. I know a large group of former Soviet citizens or relatives of Soviets that are coming through the expatriation program into Russia. And I mean, that's from the UK and Germany, Latvia, Estonia, and that is thousands of people. So I think this could open floodgates for people who can get past the scrutiny checks. I get questions all the time. What will be the requirements to actually get into Russia on this new visa? Nobody knows yet. The rules haven't been released.
So everyone's going to have a different take on this, but and you're in Crimea, so it's different than living in a place like Moscow or some other part of Russia. But for you, what's the quality of life there like compared to the United States, and what do you think on average people would experience when they go there? Similar quality of life, higher quality of life, standard of living?
I have a much higher quality of life. I could not afford to live, well, I'm half a kilometer, so a quarter of a mile, a few blocks away from the sea. I could not afford to own I've got 290 square meters of house. I don't know what that is in square feet. 3-story house overlooking the sea on one side, the mountains on the other, a few blocks from the beach. Couldn't afford to live in that in the United States. This would be a multi-million-dollar house. I have a much better.
3,121.53 square feet.
Yeah. So
That's huge.
yeah,
You live in a mansion, Kevin. You have your palace.
I have the United States of Kevin here.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Wow.
I am known as the American.
Well,
Yeah. So people will live a better standard of life than they do in the United States on the same money. Now, it again comes back to, do you have the skills to work in a similar profession here? Can you work remotely for a US or Western based company? So a lot of variables. Even if you, get a standard Russian job selling, lingerie in a lingerie store, you can live a pretty good life here.
I don't think it would work out, me working in a lingerie shop.
I don't
don't
know,
think
Rick.
so.
I can see in something pink and with Harris across your chest.
Well, these days, with the way things are going in this country, it might be an appropriate career change for me. It could be.
Yeah. So
Those,
somebody asked, JJ asked, is it true there's no GMO wheat here? There are no GMOs in Russia. So it is illegal to sell genetically modified food here.
Does that extend? Does that attitude extend to things like processed foods, or is that still as prevalent there as it is over here?
They have a good amount of processed food. Many Russians will not buy processed food. The biggest processed food is sausages. I hate Russian sausage. Everything tastes like a hot dog. They sell bologna, it tastes like a hot dog. They sell hot dogs, they taste like hot dogs. They sell spicy Italian sausage. It tastes like a hot dog.
That had to happen, right? Jesse LeBlanc says, Rick's slinging over the shoulder boulder holder. Yeah.
Yep.
What are the main, like, are those some of the main driving factors behind the you know, the number of people looking to move to Russia? Is it these cultural issues in your view?
Yeah, this is what I hear from everybody that I talk to that wants to move here, and everybody I know that has moved here. And I know lots of people who have moved here. Um, it's the what's being taught in the schools, the taking away parents' rights to, like Musk moving out of California. Your child can have a sex change operation. It's illegal here. Um, the crazy wackos like we promote Harris with, you won't find that here. So that is a vast majority of it. A little bit of the fact that Russia tends to care for their people. I've said this before. Is Putin a crook? I don't know. I find most politicians are, but I'd rather live under a crook that spends money on his people than a crook that steals it from his people and sends it to other crooks to keep wars going to make you look powerful in the world.
So there are laws there against things like, isn't there a law against, is it transgender people or is it just gay? There are laws about that stuff. I'm not entirely familiar with it, but I know there are laws in Russia that
There are
affect gay
not laws
rights.
against being gay. There are laws against promoting it in public. So you will not see a gay pride parade here. That's illegal. You will not see a man walking down the street holding the hand and kissing another man in public. That's considered promoting the lifestyle. We have in the neighboring village near us a gay bar. So they have guys who go there. That's where they hang out. As long as they stay in that bar or they do what they want to do at home, nobody has a problem with them. A lot of straight people go to the gay bar just to drink. So as long as it isn't out in public, there's no issue with it. You will not get a transgender surgery here. It is illegal to change your gender in Russia. If you have had a transgender surgery in the West, you will likely not immigrate to Russia because they will question if your values match Russian values. Man has certain body parts, woman has certain body parts. You have the chromosomes to match it. And if that's not going on, you're not, meeting the bar to come here.
Yeah. What about other, freedom issues like freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, protest, things like that? Would people experience something different there?
Yes and no. I mean, you have to be aware of what limits there are on things like free speech. You and I have talked about this. Um, I cannot say something false against the Russian Federation military. But a lot of the laws that people hold up in the West, the Western governments that say, see, there's no free speech in Russia, are the same laws that Western countries have. So, the same free speech restrictions that you have in the United States, you have some similar ones here. You will find that people are much more open about what they say here. People are much more direct. And, you another culture shock thing. If somebody thinks you're being an a-hole, they'll tell you you're being an a-hole. No, they don't dislike you after that, but they'll tell you that's what you're being.
And censorship. There's some issues. Well, we've got censorship issues here like crazy these days. What about over there? Did they not? I think you mentioned that they recently banned YouTube. Is that right? Or am I mistaken on that?
Nah, I may have mentioned that they didn't ban YouTube or that they were going to, but you may have gotten that from someone else.
Yeah.
Russia back, that was about a month ago at this point, said that YouTube was being slowed down in the country because Google servers were getting old and they were starting to break down and they could not keep the speed up. This was the official story. The actual story behind the scenes from some of my contacts in the government is that the Russian Federation slowed YouTube down on purpose because they had made a request of Google to remove certain content or restrict certain channels in Russia, much like YouTube does with every other country. There's lots of countries where, they flip the switch and you can no longer see this channel's videos in France. But Google refused multiple times. So this was kind of a punishment for Google because the second largest viewing audience in the world on YouTube is Russians. So by making it difficult for Russians to watch YouTube, they took advertising money out of Google's pockets. So everybody here knows that the way to get around this is to run a VPN server and you can see everything fine. I mean, you can see we're streaming out to YouTube right now, without a problem. I stream to YouTube all the time. So, in fact, I've got the chat going in a YouTube channel over here on the side as well. So it's not banned. If you have VPN, it works fine. They've actually started lifting that slowing in a lot of areas. In Moscow right now, I was talking to one of my friends and he says he doesn't need the VPN anymore.
And you have alternative social media platforms over in Russia to I guess, supplement where YouTube might be leaving a bit of a hole. What are those
and
sort of?
and they were talking about, people moving to those platforms. We've got RuTube and VK, which is the Russian Facebook, all popular platforms here. But for creators, it's all about YouTube. It's where the viewers are. So creators aren't happy with the Russian offerings. None of them, including the Russian ones. And if you aren't streaming in the Russian language, you won't do well on those channels. I stream to a couple of them, but my viewership is on YouTube.
Yeah. And are there censorship issues on those Russian platforms?
No, none whatsoever. In fact, as Dmitry Medvedev says, copy all that Netflix comment and stream it on our services. They deserve to be screwed because of their sanctions.
So what do you make of, and this is kind of out of the blue, so I hope I'm not getting off guard here, but what do you make of this arrest of the Telegram co-founder Pavel Durov and I mean, he said in his interview sometime back with Tucker Carlson that the reason he left Russia was because of censorship issues. And then Tucker held him up as a champion of free speech and said, this is why he moved. And he's so much better than Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. Propaganda again, including Tucker, is what he got in trouble for in Russia was the VK platform. So this Facebook, Russian Facebook.
Yeah.
He had groups of Maidan supporters in 2014 posting on the platform that people should come out in Kiev. They should protest against the legally elected president at the time. They should, incite riots, things like that. And the Russian authorities asked him to remove those groups from the platform because they did not support overthrowing a government. He refused because he traced his mother's roots to Ukraine. So his mother is supposedly Ukrainian. So he took that Elon Musk, screw you, I'm not going to take anything down attitude. And, he left the
There's
country and said he would never come back because their social media environment and their internet environment does not support his ideals. Well, and what did he get arrested for in France? The exact same thing. Because he, in Telegram, refuses to remove certain channels, restrict it being used for, France is saying, drug deals and, pornography and pedophilia, all that cradola, that anybody can use any messaging app to talk to each other about. It's more likely he was arrested for not giving them back doors. He removed RT from like France's Telegram app. If you're in France, if you're in Canada, you cannot get RT if you have a Canadian phone number. So he's cooperated with them a little bit, but they view that primarily Russian soldiers use Telegram for communications and putting out videos showing their side of the story in the conflict. And because he isn't restricting them from doing that, that is believed to be the real reason he was arrested, likely on the orders of Big Brother in the United States.
Well, I mean, I was laughing when I listened to the Tucker Carlson interview with him, and he's talking about it. We went to this country and that country, and there wasn't enough freedom basically there, so we went to the UAE. The UAE, how does what the UAE is a champion of protecting people's privacy? I don't buy that. I don't buy it for a minute.
And he holds 4 or 5 different citizenships that he's bought. So I don't remember where else. His first foreign citizenship he paid for in one of these little countries, and he's a French citizen. He flew his plane into a French airport on his French passport and was arrested. When you start looking at guys in the United States, Americans being arrested for their support of Russia, when you see people in Germany and the UK being arrested for their support of Russia or anti-UK propaganda, as they're calling it, you have to think this is going to come along. It's a rich guy who thought he could get away with anything.
Yeah. And very rich guy, billionaire, which, makes me wonder what governments he's actually working with, because I don't think it's pretty tough to become a billionaire, especially at his age, if you don't have some sort of government contract or I don't know, like I a billionaire. But anyway, last night too, I said that nothing online is truly secure, and you have a background in IT and computers, and you know how this stuff works. Is that a pretty fair assessment? Do you think Telegram, with the encryption system that his super intelligent genius brother came up with, really has been providing the public with real privacy protection?
No, and I had this discussion with a guy earlier. He said, "Oh, nothing is encrypted." But reality is in Telegram, what you write is encrypted from your phone to their servers. When somebody reads it on the other end, it's encrypted from their servers to the other guy's telephone. But it's not encrypted on the servers.
Right.
So, it isn't encrypted.
Right. And then there's storing that, as I understand it, on their servers. They're not like, it's not being erased. They're keeping all that data. And so
Sure.
they have human beings who have access to that. If any one of those humans has is compromised in any way, if they've been bought off by any spy agency anywhere in the world, they can access the information, steal it, give it to somebody. They could be implanting, digital backdoors that allow access for different governments. This is not entirely secure. I mean, if it was being encrypted end to end, nothing in the middle, and no
And not stored.
storage,
Yeah.
then maybe, but not this. This isn't secure in my view at all. This is like so when I said last night, this is my highly analytical and sophisticated analysis. I said, this just seems kind of weird to me. Right? So that's as sophisticated as my analysis got, but truly, it's almost like it was it's like false advertising to people. It's like, oh, this is a secure platform. You should be using this. And it's
Yep.
sucking people in, and it's not secure at all.
And if it goes over the internet, even if it's encrypted end to end and it's not stored, if it goes over the internet, it can be intercepted.
Yeah.
These countries control encryption keys. I've heard people say, oh, well, it's impossible to break those keys. Well, you look at a majority of this encryption comes out of, what comes out of the United States. You can't export it to another country without a license from the government. You have to expose to them how the encryption works. So, if it goes on the internet, it can be captured, it can be seen. I think Telegram, this is nothing more than, a Western government or some Western governments wanting access to those servers, and they haven't been given access.
Yeah. And, Western governments have a long history of actually collaborating, working with, or maybe even coercing the UAE into revealing confidential information online. And the UAE itself, I went through a bunch of examples last night where they've had programs, actual, efforts to dig in and spy on people online. So, yeah, I don't know. The UAE, I don't think it's a secure country for a platform like Telegram that's supposed to be secure. I don't think any of it was secured ever,
Yeah.
honestly. Well, heck, they're throwing him in jail. So they must know what he's doing. They must have been looking at his correspondence.
Yep.
Simple
Or
as that.
even if they don't, they just want access to everybody's data.
Yeah. So I think that's the bottom line on that. Can we move on? And I haven't spoken to you in a while, and I'm interested in your take on this Ukrainian incursion into Russian territory. We did speak about it the one night, so I got your
Yep.
thoughts on that. But where do you think we're at with it right now? Because I'm seeing two very, very different narratives spun up. One from the Russian side, one from the Western side.
Yeah, I actually have done an interview with somebody up in Kursk. Has relatives up there. He's up there visiting. I'll be doing another live with one of my buddies with him soon. And what's going on is Russia solidified the line. They have two prongs where Ukraine makes a little bit of movement, then they're pushed back. They make a little bit of movement, they're pushed back. But pretty much the lines are solid up there. Russia has not, people say, why hasn't Russia pushed them out? Russia isn't in a big hurry to save the trees. And that's all I can say. There's nothing up in that area other than the one nuclear power plant and trees. So some people have been saying that, this just may be a negotiating thing for Putin. He actually supposedly told the Ukrainian troops in that area, or had the military tell them, that if they removed themselves from the territory, he would stop striking the infrastructure in Ukraine, which he's been doing heavily the last 2 days. He's taken out a good majority of the electric infrastructure. The first night they had regions without power for 3-4 hours. I mean, every region went dark. Some stayed dark for 3 or 4 hours. Some were dark for 12 hours. Some were dark for 24 hours. Many areas are still dark. So word on the street, and I don't know if this is true or not, Putin said, if you guys remove yourself from the Russian territory, I'll stop these strikes. Zelensky gave him the finger, made a public statement saying, if you want your territory back, you're going to have to fight for it. So Putin continues bombing them. And, the other part, and this is what I would say is the likely situation, is by continuing the conflict in Kursk, back in those green trees where there really isn't much else. It draws troops away from the Donbass area, where Russia over the last week has made considerable inroads into the Ukrainian territory. I mean, it used to be they were moving 500 meters, 600 meters a day. They're moving 15, 20, 25 kilometers a day. They're taking over city after city in Ukraine right now. The front lines it appears, are collapsing. So, these are troops that Ukraine doesn't have down fighting those lines. They remove them, and Russia's just walking on through.
So you're saying what cities have they taken?
Oh, off the top of my head, I can't tell you. If I'd known we were going to talk about that, I would have pulled them all out for you. They're marching over towards from the Donbass area, Donetsk, Lugansk, those areas. They've taken New York at this point. They're taking, these city names are a mouthful for us Westerners, but they're marching straight towards Dnipropetrovsk in the middle of the country at this point. You want the names, I can pull them up for you.
Well, I'm just curious. Because I mean, I'm hearing two very, very different stories that, Russia's now on its back foot, that this is a huge embarrassment to Putin, which I think it certainly is from a public relations perspective. It changes the narrative a lot for Ukraine at this point, but I don't know, like I'm having trouble really getting, I think, a true picture of what's happening overall, the broad picture. No question they're in Russia. No question they're in the Kursk region, and they've kind of entrenched themselves there. What does that, but what are the other dynamics in play? I'm not really sure based on everything I'm seeing, because I'm hearing two very, very extreme stories on both sides over here.
Yeah,
I'm hearing from like the pro-Russian guys that the Ukrainian troops are in a trap, that the Russian troops are encircling them, and they're all doomed and they're all going to die. Like, I've got that, and then I've got on the other side stories that are saying that the Russian troops are, being devastated, and Putin's whole army is collapsing. So, I mean, those are the extremes that I'm hearing over here.
Yeah, I said this last time we talked about this. It was an embarrassment for Russia. They caught with their panties down up in Kursk. Should have seen the troops being moved up there. Should have seen the buildup. Should have been prepared. But the general attitude of why would they come in and take a bunch of trees? So it was an intelligence failure. Clear and simple.
Yeah.
But they are tying up good troops up there. They've got some of Ukraine's best up there fighting. They've got the Azov battalion is up there fighting, and reality is these are guys who aren't holding the line down in Donbass anymore. They were moved from the Donetsk region. Now, I'm not taking my information from purely pro-Russian sources. I have pro-Russian sources. I have pro-Ukrainian sources. I have one guy that he's actually Belarusian, but he gathers all of this and maps it on a daily basis, from both Russian mappers, pro-Russian mappers, and pro-Ukrainian mappers. And what he does is he gathers all this information together, and before he'll modify the map, he wants the videos and the photos being sent so he can geolocate them and determine actually what's going on based on that. So he's very middle of the road in his opinions. Russia uses this encircling technique on a regular basis. And this is what they're using in the Donetsk area right now is they'll come into a town or a village and they'll surround it on three sides, and the Ukrainians will, flee out the hole, and then the Russians close it up and they move on to the next one. So.
Well, I'm seeing two reports here of Sergei Lavrov warning the West that they're playing with fire, and he's saying that this is getting us very close to World War III, and it would not be confined to Europe. Possibly using escalated weapons. What do you make of those reports?
Yeah, I think that's the typical saber rattling.
Mm-hmm.
Over here, the question I get often is, are you worried about a full-scale NATO invasion? I hope NATO isn't that stupid, and I hope Russia isn't so stupid that they would respond in such a way without pure provocation.
Well, we've come this far, and it seems both sides have been pretty darn stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about the end of the world for the last couple of years, and it hasn't come yet. So
So at least we can sit here and, I guess, be desensitized to it and enjoy that kind of blissful ignorance, I guess. I don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Well,
so
there you
I
go.
was just gandering here. I don't know. I'll get you a list of those cities. We can I'm sure this will change on a daily basis here for a while. We can have a discussion about that, and I'll actually come prepared.
Okay. Well, yeah, I kind of threw this at you out of the blue, but I think one thing is clear: it's not over yet. We've still got some war ahead of us, but maybe things will change after we get through this U.S. election and the environment changes. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah. So John Johnson's asking me what pro-Ukrainian news sources I follow. Unfortunately, John, I won't name them because they have laws in place in Ukraine that releasing such information is illegal, and they do not treat the sources there well when they're caught. I can tell you that some of them are on Telegram.
Of course. Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And even though I've been banned for life on Facebook, I'm not on Telegram. But there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
I am, but hey.
Well, one thing is certain there. They know what you're saying, what you're talking about, because it's not secure. So.
Yeah, well, and then I come on YouTube and I talk about it. So.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I know it's very, very early where you are, so I guess we should let you go back to bed. And I really appreciate you coming on and having this discussion tonight. It was enlightening.
Yeah, thanks. It was long overdue.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll connect again very soon.
Yep.
All
Thanks,
right,
Rick.
talk to you later.
Thanks,
Take care.
everybody.
And I'll have more news after this, including the interview with Jeff Eely, coming right up. Don't go away.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight for freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from, but there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech, free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. In other news, a major development today, former President Donald Trump is being indicted again over his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. They're just not going to leave him alone with this lawfare. It's an effort, of course, that all centered around the January 6th incident. A federal grand jury has returned a superseding indictment reaffirming the same 4 charges Trump faced last August. These charges include conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. This new indictment follows a recent Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, which limited the government's ability to use certain official acts taken by Trump during his presidency as part of the prosecution. Special counsel Jack Smith's office stated that this superseding indictment presented to a new grand jury reflects efforts to align with the Supreme Court's ruling. In response, Trump called the indictment shocking, of course, and his words again here, a direct attack on democracy, claiming on social media that it's related to the conspiracy to obstruct the 2020 presidential election, while insisting that it was others who obstructed the election, not him, of course. And this is sort of the take that mainstream media is taking with regard to Trump's position and comments today. So although the charges remain the same, the evidence has been adjusted in light of the Supreme Court's ruling, which expanded the definition of official acts. Notably, references to Trump's conversations with Justice Department officials and some of his advisors have been removed, as well as details about certain tweets from that period. The indictment also acknowledges that Vice President Mike Pence's role on January 6th during the electoral vote count. This seems to address the Supreme Court's concerns regarding evidence related to Trump's campaign to influence Pence, as they are suggesting in these documents and this indictment. The court's July ruling highlighted the discussions between the president and Pence about their official duties are generally protected by immunity, but also noted that presiding over the Senate is not an executive branch function. So much of the new indictment remains consistent with the original, with prosecutors asserting that Trump knowingly spread false claims about the election. These claims, they argue, were baseless, unreasonable, and persistently repeated despite being publicly disproven, or so they say. Trump's state of mind will be a crucial factor in the upcoming trial, which is not expected to take place before Election Day. The trial could become even more complex if Trump wins, as he has hinted at the possibility of halting prosecutions related to J6 and has suggested he might pardon a lot of the defendants involved in the Capitol incident on J6. So Trump's legal team is now reviewing the details of this superseding indictment. And why am I not terribly surprised to see this? They're just not going to stop with the lawfare on the Democrat side. Now, very shortly, we are going to leave YouTube because we are going to bring you Jeff Eely, two-time Canadian war veteran, who was in court today, second day, final day of his Freedom Convoy trial. We'll tell you what happened there. We'll find out what happened when we speak to Jeff, but we will be leaving YouTube because in the course of that conversation, we will likely be touching on subject matter that might just not be entirely YouTube friendly. Before we do that, though, we're still on the U.S. election topic, and this audio released today, I believe, by the Kamala Harris campaign camp. This is a leaked conversation that J.D. Vance had regarding teachers who he says disturb him if they don't have children. So this being used as ammunition to take a shot at J.D. Vance, portraying him as someone who is not friendly to women's issues.
And I think our conservative idea is that parents and families should determine what children learn, what values they are brought up with. You know, so many of the leaders of the left, and I hate to be so personal about this, but they're people without kids trying to brainwash the minds of our children. And that really disorients me and it really disturbs me. Randy Weingarten, who's the head of the most powerful teachers union in the country, she doesn't have a single child. If she wants to brainwash and destroy the minds of children, she should have some of her own and leave ours the hell alone. And
I don't know that that's actually going to hurt him. that much, to be honest. I don't think that recording is going to hurt him at all. I don't know what this is going to do, though. You know, Trump today, this is a new commercial being distributed online. It's getting a lot of traction. It's Trump trading cards, digital trading cards. He's plugging them again. We've seen this before, and I don't think I've ever seen this during an election before. But here's a candidate for president of the United States plugging non-fungible tokens. Trump trading cards. Here we go. This is what it looks like.
This is your favorite president, Donald J. Trump, with some very exciting news. By popular demand, I'm doing a new series of Trump digital trading cards. You all know what they are. We've had a lot of fun with them. It's called the America First Collection. 50 all new stunning digital trading cards. It's really something. These cards show me dancing and even me holding some Bitcoins. Here's the best part. I'm doing great things for my Trump digital card collectors. First, there's the real physical Trump cards. Purchase 15 or more of my Trump digital trading cards, and we'll mail you a beautiful physical trading card. It's really, I think, quite something. Each physical trading card has an authentic piece of my suit that I wore for the presidential debate, and people are calling it the knockout suit. I don't know about that, but that's what they're calling it. So we'll cut up the knockout suit, and you're going to get a piece of it, and we'll be randomly autographing 5 of them, a true collector's item. This is something to give your family, your kids, your grandchildren. Number 2 is to purchase 75 of my Trump digital trading cards, and you will also be invited to join me for a gala dinner at my beautiful country club in Jupiter, Florida. We really have tremendous dinners with my collectors. Have a lot of fun together. We're going to have a good time. I'm keeping my Trump digital trading cards at the same price of $99 each. We've done that right from the beginning. So go to collecttrumpcards.com. It's really easy to buy. You just need an email address and a credit card or crypto. You know, they call me the crypto president. I don't know if that's true or not, but a lot of people are saying that. So don't miss out. Go to collecttrumpcards.com. Go right now and collect your piece of American history. Let's have fun together and enjoy my Trump cards. We're going to have a lot of fun. We'll be talking about it for a long time. Thank you very much. Have a good time.
Let the fight begin.
I want to backtrack on this, and I want to read the disclaimer at the bottom. It says, NFT LLC is not owned, managed, or controlled by Donald J. Trump, the Trump Organization, CIC Digital LLC, or any of the respective principals or affiliates. NFT in INT LLC and 45 Footwear LLC uses Donald J. Trump's name, likeness, and image under paid license from CIC Digital LLC, which license may be terminated or revoked according to its terms. And there's a line across this something digital trading cards. Donald trading. It's covered up here partly. Trading cards and Trump Corporation are not. I can't. It's over here. There it is. Terms and conditions available at collectibletrumpcards.com/terms. Only one valid transaction per purchaser while supplies last. Trading cards shown are examples for illustrative purposes only. The actual trading card may vary from the images depicted. Well, certain conditions apply. I don't really know what value there is in a digital Trump trading card, but the scary thing is I'm sort of starting to begin to understand what they're all about. I understand how these NFTs work now. You know, you talked to me about these a few years ago, and I would like, what the heck are you talking about? An NFT? What the heck is that? These are non-fungible tokens, they're called, right? The America First collection is the latest in this series of Trump trading digital assets. I think they launched back in, it was about 2 years ago, right? 2022. And he sold out of 44,000 NFTs within 2 days of releasing them back then. So a lot of people laughed at it. I think even Steve Bannon at one point, when the initial offering came out, he said, I can't do this anymore. Because Trump was going through a bit of a, how shall I put it? I think his popularity was in a bit of decline at that point, and he was having a little trouble kind of recentering his whole effort to take another run at the presidency back then. So these new cards are selling for, as you saw, $99 each. That would be in U.S. funds too. So what's that? That's almost 140 Canadian. Man alive. And so this package purchases could get you a gala dinner with the former president. Trump sneakers are a physical card with a piece of his suit. I'm just reading some notes here. he wore at the debate. You get a piece of his suit. Well, strangest. This might just end up being the strangest election ever. And I wonder if we're ever going to have normal elections again, or even a normal political climate. I'm skeptical, doubtful. Social media has certainly changed politics, and it has turned it into a form of entertainment. I think television as a medium did that, in its, especially its early days, changed the way candidates campaign. It changed the nature of political debates. I understand Trump has now agreed to the terms set out, so he will be proceeding, as I understand it, with that debate between him and Kamala Harris. But remember, I think back to televised debates involving Kennedy, Nixon. Those were moments that made or you could either make or break a presidential campaign just on the televised debate alone back then. And wearing makeup or not wearing makeup, that made a big difference at the time. Now it's all social media and television and the combination of both. The medium is the message, as Marshall McLuhan said, and social media has reshaped everything. Here, take a look at this. This is kind of what I'm talking about. This is not even really directly related, but somebody took, who is this? This is Miss South Carolina, an old video clip of Miss South Carolina being thrown up right against, through a piece of basic video editing, against a clip from Kamala Harris, comparing the two and making you kind of question the competency of both.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future.
Especially true when it comes to the climate crisis, which is why we will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work operating from the new norms, rules, and agreements that we will convene to work together on to galvanize global action.
It's funny. I don't know if we're any better off with her or Biden. I got to wonder. Now, folks, we're going to bring you Jeff Eely, but we are going to jump off YouTube in order to do that. A two-time war veteran in court today for day 2, the final day of his Freedom Convoy trial. And so he was being represented there, has been represented, continues to be represented by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, which has overseen the wrap-up of day 2 there in Ottawa at the Ontario Court of Justice. So Jeff Eely charged with mischief, obstructing police, to which he pleaded not guilty, asserting his charter right not to be arbitrarily arrested or detained. This during the Freedom Convoy. The Justice Center is supporting his defense, and Jeff Eely joined the historic Freedom Convoy in Ottawa to peacefully protest lockdowns and vaccine mandates. During the protest, allegations arose that the war memorial had been desecrated. In response, Jeff Eely organized a group of veterans to stand guard at the memorial, even taking the least popular pre-dawn shift himself. So on the morning of February 19th, 2024, Jeff Eely made his way to the Ottawa War Memorial for his sentry duty. The area was blocked off by police and not accessible to the public. Police claimed then that after being instructed to stop, they allege that Jeff Eely ran briefly before being confronted by officers and forcibly pushed to the ground and arrested. He was subsequently charged with mischief and obstructing police. And then in a major development earlier this year, the federal court ruled that the government's use of the Emergencies Act against the Freedom Convoy was unconstitutional. I said that the moment it was invoked. As a result, Crown prosecutors can no longer rely on the Emergencies Act to justify police actions in this case. Instead, they argue that common law granted police the authority to stop and detain Jeff Eely. I'm not sure that's going to stick. I think the arguments from the JCCF presented in court over the past 2 days, pretty powerful. And so today, on the final day of the hearing, video evidence was presented in court, and Jeff Eely himself even took to the stand to testify in his own defense. The verdict is expected to be delivered next month. And when we come back on the other side of this, Jeff Eely will join us to explain what happened in court today.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Well, Jeff, welcome back to the program. I have to say I'm glad that I'm able to speak to you because you're still, I guess, out walking around and not behind bars. So that's very good news. What happened in court today?
Well, any day that I'm not behind bars is a day that's better than one where I am. But yeah, so today was the second day of my trial. The Crown led off by showing a few videos. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, we watched some drone footage from OPS of people down in Ottawa there holding the line, and basically they're saying that, that's me in the red hat, I'm there holding the line. And then today was mostly just videos, well, it was all videos really that they kind of just took from, I think one of them was open source and a couple of them were from my personal social media accounts. And they were just, some videos that I think were mostly for the purposes of identifying me as, the same guy that they locked up. But I don't know. We'll wait and see how all of that pans out, I guess. I'm not expecting any kind of a decision on this until September. What I would say is that Chris Fleury over at JCCF did a great job representing me, and I was really happy with how he worked with me on our approach there. He's a really even keel kind of guy. He just kind of cares about what's true in the process. He's not very adversarial or anything like that. So he's a very good lawyer. In the end, there was a bit of a question. It's a bit unorthodox for the defendant to take the stand, but I did take the stand because I just kind of wanted to set the record straight and say my piece. That's what I traveled to Ottawa from the Atlantic coast to do. So anyway, I ended up taking the stand. I wanted to provide some counterfacts to some of this testimony that was entered by police, and just kind of explain, why I was there and what I was doing at each stage, like why I was doing what I was doing, this kind of thing. So, I'm pretty satisfied with how it went. Of course, I start thinking of some other things that I perhaps should have thrown in there while I was on the stand as soon as I get off, but that seems like it's always the way with these things. And at the end of the day, I'm pretty satisfied with how things went.
So I get the sense that in terms of legal arguments, you have a lot going for you in this case because the government has not been able to use the Emergencies Act as justification for detaining you because that was declared before unconstitutional. So that went out the window. And there is some legal precedent in place to protect you and your position because your lawyer is arguing that you were arbitrarily detained and based on other cases involving protesters at the G20, I guess there were legal precedents set at that point. So is that encouraging for you?
Yeah, it is pretty encouraging, especially because even with that case law, my case is actually pretty unique. Even with the stuff coming out of the G20, what I actually did to get arrested is probably less severe than what those folks were doing. In the case of the G20, they were told to leave. I think this was the G20. Well, the G20, there were a couple of things. There was people who were, searched and ID'd arbitrarily in order to enter a public park. So that's a good point. Did the police have any grounds to stop and ID me? They didn't say as much. Like there wasn't as you said, the whole the Emergencies Act predicated this whole thing, so they don't really have that to stand on. So now they have to go with kind of common law authority for the police to set up secure areas. And it is, my position, of course, that they didn't have such authority. There was the conditions on the ground at that time didn't rise to the level of anything even approaching a threat to public safety or national security that would require such action. The Ottawa shooter incident in 2014, I'm sure that they cordoned off the area down in Ottawa, but that's a very different situation than what we had in Ottawa with the protests. It's my position that I had every right to be there and that I was arbitrarily detained. And I guess we'll see what the judge thinks in a few weeks.
Yeah, and what if by some weird situation you are found guilty, and I can't imagine that that's going to happen given the evidence that has been presented, but if that were to happen, what kind of penalties might be in store for you?
So I think mischief, I'm not even sure what the maximum penalty is off the top of my head. I think it's actually like 10 years. It would have to be pretty severe. It might be 2, I'm not sure. But What my lawyer was saying was, it would probably be worst case Ontario probation. So I'm not getting my hopes up for any particular outcome. I'm basically like this kind of just came down to, satisfying my duty, Rick.
Yes.
I swore an oath to defend Canadians from all threats, foreign and domestic. And at the time around the 2021 election, I observed 8 to 9